Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Weekly Pint. It's not a show, but that doesn't mean that it's not fun. It's a happy hour. It's an excuse for all of us to hang out together, have a drink. I've been tweaking a bunch of stuff here in studio, and so everything's moved just enough to throw me off right now. The computer's in like a slightly different place. The camera is just a little bit closer and a little bit everything is just off, but it doesn't change what the show is. It is, like I said, an excuse for us to all hang out and have a drink together. So hopefully you guys all have a drink in your hand. I've been watching here. Marco is getting ready to leave work, so hopefully that means he's not with a drink in hand already. Julia is drinking a West Side German-Irish lager currently. I had one of those the other day while I was grocery shopping, and it was fantastic. I do love that beer a lot. Caroline and Joe are drinking wine and trying to get wine drunk on a Monday night. I think there is nothing wrong with that. If this show that is not a show is supposed to do anything, it's to help all of us get a little bit loopy on a Monday night. It helps start the week off the right way. There's no reason to be completely sober on a Monday night. That's my philosophy, at least. Maybe I'm strange, but that's the way I see it. If anybody is jumping on here that's new to this show, that's not a show, this live stream, the concept is very simple. We all just sit around and we talk about things. Sometimes we talk about stuff that's going on in the gnome verse, the Gnomeverse. Sometimes we just talk about things in craft beer or spirits news. Other times we talk about Will Smith slapping people. Who knows? It's just whatever we decide we want to talk about, we talk about. But the point is conversation. So wherever you are hanging out and watching the show, take part in the conversation. There's multiple ways to do that. You can call into the show, and the number is right here on the screen there, 567-70-DRINK, and you can call in and it'll pipe you right in here to the studio, and I can put you on the show that way. Or the easier way, which most people figure out pretty quickly, wherever it is that you are listening or watching the show, you can chat, be it on YouTube or Facebook or I assume Twitter. I don't think I've ever had somebody come onto the chat via Twitter. If somebody's on Twitter, comment so I can see if that pops up. Twitch, all of that stuff comes in here onto the chat, and it appears right here on screen. So you can do that way too. How's everybody doing? Hopefully everybody's having a good start to the week. I apologize for a late and not super official brewcast this week. I mentioned on this show last week that there's some big things happening with the brewcast. I didn't think that meant that there just wouldn't be an episode this week, but things happen. So that's that. But we did get something out there, or I got something out there for you, and I did get another piece of Drinking with the Gnome recorded today. It could be a whole episode. I was gonna check and see how long it was. I'm not gonna do that though, because I don't want to mess anything up with the computer. I don't want to touch the computer. I don't want to upset the digital gods. But it's a if I put it up the way it is right now, it's a fairly short episode. I could do 2 segments though and make it longer to where it's kind of supposed to be. I just have to find a guest that can talk about the topic that we are talking about. And I'm going to try to do that. I think that's what I'm going to do, even if it's just somebody that wants to sit around and drink something. Julia says, not seeing a way to comment on the Twitter feed, but I'll keep looking unless T-chat. Okay. Unless that'll steal work from David. No, David is not here tonight. It's been chaotic. Caroline says, I miss Drinking with the Gnome. We mostly drink beer, but it's fun to learn about the other stuff too. Drinking with the Gnome is coming back. I promise that. Like I said, that new episode is the bulk of the episode. The hard work is done. Now I just need to wrap up a couple things. David got scared of you. No, David will be back. It's just one of those weeks. Things have been really, really chaotic. Josh is drinking March of the Widows by Tripping Animals Brewing. It sounds like a metal album, March of the Widows. I'm going to crack open a beer. And I have to mention that I did not pay for this beer. This was a gift. So thank you to Grainworks. They hooked me up with a little mixed 6-pack, and in it was a can of this new Crushin' on Joe's, a Pilsner. Here we go. Ben says, "Hi there, can we talk Mash Cult? I had a whatever happened to moment over the weekend about Mash Cult and went searching for them, found nothing official. It appears they're officially done since one of the brewers passed away late last year." Yes, we can talk about it briefly, and I don't know all of the details. So prior to all of that, it was two people basically that were running Mash Cult out of Party Town down there in Florence. And prior to last year, this was a few years back, one of the brewers left the Mash Cult business. I don't know how much of that was publicized either, but had some health things going on, is how we'll put it. And he left, which left just the other remaining guy. He unexpectedly passed away late last year, and the company then just goes away. I mean, I guess the company still technically exists because it was owned by Party Town, so there's no reason that it couldn't come back at some point with other people. I don't know that it would have the same soul. I don't know that it would be the same thing, but there's no legal reason that it couldn't come back in some form. But as of right now, it is just it's gone because he passed away. There will not be. I can't imagine there'll be anything official because I said it was just run by those two guys at one point, and then just run by one guy. So there's nobody there to officially announce anything. Sad, but they were at one time, they were definitely looking for a permanent location, like an actual tap room, which would have been fantastic for them to grow the business and to turn into more of a piece of Cincinnati beer that people were paying attention to. Ben says, "Thanks, didn't realize no one was left." I mean, that's the easy way to put it. The easy way is that there's nobody left. It's very sad. Let's crack into a beer. Let's cheer things up a little bit. I did try this in the tap room when they tapped it, and let's see. Yeah, this looks a little bit better. I don't want to. Again, this was a gift, so I don't want to say anything too horribly negative about the beer. The pint that was poured for me in the tap room was extremely hazy. This still has some haze to it, but a little bit better. I'm a stickler for pilsners. I'm a bit of a pilsner Nazi. I think that there are very specific style guidelines that they're supposed to stick to, and if they drift away from that, not that it makes it a bad beer, but I have trouble then putting it in the ranks of Pilsner. That's not to say that that's not true about other beer styles. Sorry, I'm tweaking stuff while I'm trying to talk. Pilsner is that thing for me that I get crazy about. And so when I get one that is the wrong color or is not brilliantly clear enough or has some off flavors or whatnot, it drives me absolutely bonkers. I recognize that that's a me problem and not anybody else problem, but it is a problem for me. So when I got a hazy pint in the tap room, I didn't want to say anything because it was just tapped. So sometimes when things are brand new, put on tap, they're shaken up and what. I don't know. I give them a little bit of leeway. It was probably the first pint poured off of the keg, so this is definitely better. Although it is still a little bit hazy. It's a little bit more kind of pale than I like. It's not as golden and bright. You can't really tell on this this camera, but I'm staring into a light, so it's way easier to see. It smells good though. Yeah, it's nice. It's got some a little bit of spicy kind of hoppiness going on. It has it's super cold, but that's again a me problem. It doesn't have as much of that zippy bitter snap at the very end that I want to kind of cut through some of the crackery malt. But it's good. The it's a good lager. It's tasty, but I don't know that I would call it a pilsner. I would call it just an American lager maybe. But it's good. I guess American lager wouldn't really wrap up what this is properly because of the noble hops and the I assume there's a bunch of German malt going on here. I can't taste differences in malt usually, so unless it's a very specific, I can't taste the differences in light malts like this. But it's tasty. It's good, and I like the idea of bringing both of the Joes into the branding on this. Obviously, Joey Votto and then Joe Burrow on there, crushing on Joes. Though we'll see how everybody loves Votto this year after how things are shaping up so far. Marco got his truth. Good. Do you guys let's start off. Let's talk. I didn't pull any labels this week because I figured we'd do a little bit of talking about Stone, and it'll give the labels an extra week to kind of to build up. I always like maybe every other week pull in the labels because I like having a bunch to go through. I think it makes it more fun than just like two. And we can definitely spend a few minutes here talking about this Stone Miller Coors victory, whatever we want to call it. If anybody does not know the whole backstory here, Stone sued Miller Coors, Molson Coors, Keystone, however you want to think of it. They sued the company because of the way they were using the term Stone on their cans. I should pull up a picture here for you. Sorry, this is real exciting entertainment here. I should have prepped ahead of time, but Caroline says Stone loves to sue. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean it's a little more complicated than that. We'll talk about that. Here's the picture that I always remember. If I can pull it up full screen for you, there we go. Oh, great, that doesn't work. This is what happens when you shift things around in studio. So here is the picture of Greg Cook. This is the one of the founders of Stone holding up a Keystone can with the branding in question. And you can see that it just says Stone on the can. Very bright, very bold, very Stone. That was the bulk of the argument in the trial is that it was confusing to consumers, that Stone is trademarked by Stone Brewing, and they didn't like the way Keystone was putting it on there. This is going to cause all kinds of problems now that I unhooked that. Oh Lord. And so this was back in like, I don't know, 2017 or something when they first sued Coors over this, and it took that long for it to go to trial. The trial didn't last nearly as long as I thought it was going to last, and the Stone came out winners. The jury awarded them, I think, $56 million, as opposed to the $256 million that they were asking for, because the jury decided that they did not think that the infringement was willful. The really crazy part of all of this is that during the trial, the current CEO of Stone, and I can't remember the lady's name, but while she was being examined, I guess, on the stand, it came out that Stone owes a venture capitalist firm $450-something million that is supposed to be paid back next year. This is a investment group that came in a couple years ago with like an $80-something million investment to help Stone grow rapidly. This is when they opened up their brewery in Berlin. They opened up one in Napa, one in Virginia. So that was just this big expansion all at once. Took a bunch of money to do it. Somehow that $80-something million has turned into $400-something million that they owe back next year. They don't have that money. Their sales are tanking year after year, and somehow they have to come up with it by next year. And so I don't know that this $50 million is going to quite cut that, and I think that we are likely going to be seeing Stone sell in the very short term, is what it appears to me. Which is, on one hand, sad. Stone is one of those kind of OG craft breweries for a lot of people. A lot of us kind of grew up with some of those beers, and they are craft beer to a lot of people. They were extremely anti-fizzy yellow beer. They were very against this idea, and they called it a fizzy yellow facsimile of beer, and refused to bend to the will of what the masses wanted. They instead wanted to pave their own way of the beer that they wanted to make, this super hoppy, bitter stuff, and people liked that. It was fun. It was what craft beer was all about at the time. So it's sad to see them in the position they are. However, the one thing that I will say is that there is a huge part of me that is not sad at all, because that was their personality, because that's who they were and what they were all about. And then now, when they need to make some money to pay back this venture capitalist firm, they are now pushing very hard into this whatever their lager is, this Buena Vista, whatever it's called. They're making a ton of that. They are doing like light fruity gozas and things like that, and that's all very anti-Stone. Which, again, not that they're bad beers. I drink a ton of that stuff. That's probably the majority of what I drink is beers like that. Fizzy yellow beers and fruity gozas and things like that. That's most of the beer that enters my face. but it's not Stone. And so when a company kind of bends who they are to make money, that's when I start to lose respect. And it's a strange thing to think about, because you're a business. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make the thing that makes money. But I don't know. There's something about craft beer that's supposed to be a little bit different than that, I think. I'm curious to hear what everybody else thinks, because it just doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't feel right. Money is not the end-all, be-all in life. And I think that's one of the things that makes craft beer different than a lot of industries, is that there are a lot of people that are doing this not because they're going to get rich off of it. They're doing it because they have a passion for the product and for the community and the people and the idea of making beer for a living. There's people that are have quit incredibly successful jobs to start breweries that will never turn that type of profit, that will never bring in the millions of dollars that it seems some of these larger companies think they need to do. So that's my opinion on it. That's my thought on it. And so on one hand, I'm sad, and on the other hand, I just don't really care all that much, because I don't think that the Stone of today is the Stone that I fell in love with at one point. I can still remember there was Julio says that money isn't the end all. You're right, but it certainly makes life easier when you have some. It's a hard question to answer. Do you go down with your ship, or just move it to a different boat to stay afloat? Yeah, so let me clarify. Money is not the end all. You have to have money to survive, but you don't need a ton of money to survive. You can create a very successful business that turns a profit, that is able to pay its employees properly, treat its employees well, without kind of bending those morals. Again, Caroline says it's hard to come back from a strong stance like that, and I think that's part of the thing too, is that they were so vocal about being anti-something that company can't then become that thing. Then nobody believes in your company anymore. If you're going to found a company based on being anti-beers like this, you can't make a beer like this, or who are you anymore? Like nobody knows who you are as a company. You can start another company and make that company that thing, unless you as a person are anti that. Marco says, I watched the show documentary Beer Jesus that was about Stone's Berlin Brewery, and that guy was way out of his skis, and he was way out ahead of his skis, and he was very pompous about how he was talking about Berlin's beer culture. Also, he blamed everyone but himself. Yeah, I've heard that from people about that documentary. I've never seen it. If somebody can tell me if it's streaming somewhere, I would love to watch it. But he's an interesting guy, and I don't have any problem with that. Like if you want to start a brewery and you think that you know better about Germany's beer culture, and you can change beer culture in Germany, and you want to put yourself out there and try to do it, more power to you. Like I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with somebody being pompous and arrogant and whatever else. But that's who you are, and be that. Don't then go and change the entire company when it doesn't work. Accept that you failed and move on. And I'm not saying Stone failed, but it looks like that's where we're headed. I don't know. It's hard because you don't ever want to see somebody's small business. Not that Stone is a small business. You don't ever want to see somebody's business fail. Joe says Schwarzbeers 24/7. See, like if somebody wanted to start a brewery and that was their thing, more power to them. I know that Marco would be first in line to check it out. Here in town, I think Urban Artifact is a great example of it too, though. Urban Artifact started out their business, and they said, we are a sour, wild brewery. We do this, and that's what we stand for. That's what we do. And it would have been easy sometimes, I'm sure, to say, you know what, this is getting really difficult. This is hard. We could make a little bit of money if we just crank out some Pilsners or crank out some IPAs. And they never did that because that's not who they are. Looks like you can rent Beer Jesus on Amazon Prime for $2 to $3. I'll have to look into it. So, they didn't change the personality of the business to match up with what the demand that they saw being. They stuck with it, and they changed what the demand of people was. I mean, not that they didn't change their products around. They definitely, as soon as they hit on some of those fruit beers, they went hard into it and refocused into fruited sour beer, which was not how they started the business. So, like, you can evolve who you are to meet demand, but that doesn't mean changing who that soul is. Tim says Julia's going to put David out of work. I hope David is listening, because he's not here, so he's not helping, and clearly Julia is much better at it. Marco says worth the price of a cheap beer. I just have to find the time to watch it. My kids don't let me watch TV. Julia says, may the best producer win. David is not a producer. He has not gotten that title. He's more of an intern. So that's my opinion about Stone. It would be sad to see them sell, especially depending on who they sell to. I could see it being one of those venture capitalist firms that would buy them, but it would still be sad. Caroline says, Budweiser entered the craft game probably the only way they could, by buying up other places. If they came out with a Bud Porter, it wouldn't go over well. They did try that over the years. They tried to play around in the craft beer game, sometimes very well, actually. There was a line back when I was probably like early 2000s, maybe. Michelob did a line of traditional German-style beers that were phenomenal. Marco, I'll get to that comment because I think you nailed it right there. They had this line of Michelob beers. Again, not that that's craft beer; it's traditional German beer, but it was so freaking good. And then they did more on the Budweiser branded stuff. They had like that Bud, what was it? Bud American Ale or something that was just like a little hoppier, like an amber, like a hoppy amber ale. That was okay. They did. Didn't they do like a Bud Light Wheat or something at one time? So like they've tried from time to time to use the Bud brand to push kind of some of those craft flavors, but that's not really what people want out of Bud. My iPad over here is going nuts. It keeps restarting, and hang on, give me just a second. I think it's because the battery was so low, and now it's grumpy at me. And now I don't even know if it's actually charging. Yeah, it's charging. Okay, maybe that'll help. Possibly. Marco says the Bud Amber was good. Tim says, I liked their brewer series. Going back to the Stone thing, Marco says, that's the problem with talking in absolutes. When you inevitably change, your identity is dented or damaged beyond repair. It's not. I don't think it's it's not a problem with talking in absolutes. If you know who you are, who your company is, you can talk in an absolute, but you have to know who you are. And I think that is when I talk to, I mean, not that my opinion means anything, but I've put a lot of thought into these things, and I have watched a lot of breweries start. I've talked to a lot of very successful breweries, and I've talked to a lot of very not successful breweries. So I think that I have a little bit of insight, and again, that's I could be completely blowing smoke out of my ass, but when I talk to a brewery that's starting up, one of the biggest things that I look for to try to understand is for my own good of trying to write about somebody, but also as advice towards people. The number one thing for me is that you have to know who you are. Caroline says only Sith deal in absolutes. I think that the most important thing in life, and not that you can't learn who you are over time, but when you figure something out about yourself, and you know that this is something that is important to you, know that that's important to you and be willing to put it out there. And as a business, if you want to be successful, you have to know who you are. You have to be able to communicate that to people, and you have to be able to tell them, here's what we stand for. If you change to a certain degree beyond that, you are not the same business anymore. You are not the same person anymore. There are core things about us and about these businesses that make them who they are, in my opinion. If you look at some of the most successful companies out there, you can very clearly define who they are, what they do, what they stand for. There's not a lot of gray area with them, and I to me, that's one of the most important things. Again, I could be wrong. That's just my opinion, my thoughts of after watching people succeed, people fail, and trying to understand why that happens. And that goes for, I think, businesses and people. I think that we should all strive to better understand ourselves every day. And I mean, maybe absolutes isn't the right way to put it. I don't know. But on one hand, I'm like, well, yeah, it definitely is absolutes that I'm talking about. And then other time, I'm like, no, because there is evolution in our thoughts and our feelings, but there are some parts about, I think, all of our personalities and all of our morals, even, or our ideals, or things that drive us, that are very absolute. And we might find new ways to communicate them, and new ways to use them, new ways to live within them. But I think that core thing that's there, if you can boil it down and really figure it out, is a very absolute thing. I think the danger, here's where I'll go. I think the danger of dealing in an absolute is if you are not first boiling it down to that core thing that is the absolute. If you just kind of scratch the surface, like we'll use Stone as the example as a business. If you say, we hate fizzy yellow beer, that's not the absolute that they should have been talking about. They should have been talking about the fact that they hate what big beer has done to the beer industry. They hate what the lack of passion behind the product that people are doing has done to the industry. That was the core of it. That's what they were trying to say. But they went with this kind of surface level, we hate fizzy yellow beer. It's like, okay, I mean, that's fine if you do, but is that really the core that you were you're trying to communicate to people, or is it something deeper that you haven't really gotten to yet? And I think that's true with people. I think sometimes people will say, here's what I believe. And it's like, okay, well, what is it behind that you are really, that's the absolute behind it that you are trying to communicate? So there is danger in dealing with absolutes if you don't really know what your absolute is. We got way too deep on this, guys. This is this is like an episode of Oprah or Dr. Phil or something, not Weekly Pint. We are getting about to that time to start wrapping things up, though. If anybody has any other thoughts about it, feel free to chime in. Feel free to sit tonight over a beer and send me an email about your thoughts, and we can definitely still have a conversation about absolutes in life and in business, and I think it's a great conversation. Or if you ever see me out somewhere, sit down and we'll have a beer and we'll talk about what your absolutes are. Because I really do think that it's important for us to know what those things are for us. I think it helps us. It helps us live within the world. It helps us deal with other people, and especially when it comes to businesses, it helps us communicate to our customers or our fans or whoever it may be, who we are and what we stand for. Let's see if we can actually get some music to play. This is going to be complicated here. If anybody has not listened to this week's Brewcast, it was kind of a strange episode. We are leading into next episode, which will be a little different. And all right, Tim says, anyone else going to Cincy Beer Fest? I know it's not Gnome's favorite event, but I still enjoy it. I don't have any problem with it. I just don't typically go, so I will not be there. Marco says, don't go to a comedy show, wrestling event, or a black tie rose type event. Just sit in the front row if you can't take a joke. I agree with that. If you, well, I know it's okay if you can't take a joke. You can get offended all you want. You can be upset. You can even send an angry email afterwards and say you were wrong. You should not have said that joke. That's fine. I would say you don't have to throw the temper tantrum, stand up, get on stage, and hit someone. I'm a firm believer that there are very, very, very few times in life where hitting another person is the solution to a problem. It only opens up new problems. Very few. And it's sad to see grown adults throw temper tantrums like that. It's especially when it's somebody that, a celebrity that you grow up with, and you like this person for their work, and it's sad to see. Sorry, I'm trying to see if my music is actually working here, and I don't think it is. It's really hard to do when you're just looking at a meter trying to see. This week's Brewcast, I do think. Okay, I think we're working. I think what I'm going to try to do, since it is such a big kind of a turning point in the show, I think that I'm going to do some kind of it's not going to be live, so I'm recording it this week during the week, and then obviously it'll be up on Monday, but I think I'm going to do like a live broadcast of it on Friday sometime. So you can tune in, and I'll be on there, and we can, I won't be on there like this where you can see me, but I'll be on the chat, and we can talk during the show and kind of process everything if you want to. So maybe we'll do that Friday. Marco says, not me this year. It is strange. I'm curious also with Beer Fest if this means that Summer Beer Fest is on the same schedule, if they're going to just be really close together. Curious to see how that works. It also, if you guys didn't see, Jungle Jim's International Beer Fest is back this year, finally, after 2 years of not existing. I will be at that one. So I'm excited about that. And the iPad, again, is restarting. My God, guys. I had it working, and then I started talking. Hang on, it's restarting. So Tim says June 17th and 18th. Is that Summer Beer Fest or is that Jungle Jim's? Father's Day weekend is Jungle Jim's. Whatever. That sounds like that's when that would be. All right, I'm going to wrap this up before the iPad starts fighting me again. Thank you guys very much. If you like this show, that is not a show, if you like anything that is gnome related, you guys know how to support, right? You go to thegnarlygnome.com/support, and it helps so much. Thank you to all of you guys who do that and help kind of keep things going. I promise that there is some fun stuff coming, and I promise that it's going to be worth it for all of the times that you guys had to sit here and listen to me talk about the chaos in my life and the stress of it all. So hang in there. I promise. I promise it's going to be worth it. More YouTube stuff coming too. Some really cool stuff that I'm working on, and Drinking with a Gnome. All of that stuff, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week right here. Same time, same place. I'll get all of this figured out one of these days so it doesn't just crash and fight me the whole time. But hopefully everything at least sounded okay. Cheers, everybody. Everybody have a good night. Maybe I'll even broadcast live from Jungle Jim's Beer Festival. It's been a while since I've done that. That could be fun.